I would like to lead off today's video by saying thank you from sunny Florida, but today that would be dishonest. It has been pouring goalie washers for the last week or two, but I am going to say thank you nonetheless to everyone who shows up here every day, engages with the channel, watches the videos, likes, shares, subscribes. Absolutely the best audience out there. It truly has been, I've said it before, I'll say it again, a humbling experience to have taken this journey the last 5.5 years. Also, to those of you over at Patreon who have showed up in yet another way, at another level, putting your money where your mouth is and engaging in a much more serious, much more adult conversation about the things we might be facing in reality on the ground in the next year or two. Maybe even sooner. We would love to have everyone over there that we can get. It's only $1, $1 US per month. Yesterday we put up a brand new video. It was part 4 in our series of how a grid down, shit it's the fan situation might affect men specifically. Last month we did a 4-part series on how it might affect women and things that they could expect. We're going to be talking about all sorts of different topics just in a different way. Here on this platform, we have to be a little bit more PG-13, G-rated. Over there, we can use whatever imagery we really want to. I, to this day, have not had any issues with censorship over there at Vimeo. They are a great partner to have. So once again, $1 US per month, even less if you sign up for an entire year, and fully refundable up to 90 days. Show up, don't like it, just say Florida Maquis. You can inbox me over there. You can't here. But over there, you can inbox me and say, you know what, it's just not for me. Or maybe I'm having a financial issue in my life. I need my $3 back. No problem. Absolutely no problem. So in today's video, however, going along with this idea of what's happening here in Palm Coast and has been over the last month, we have gotten tons and tons of rain. We, in June and May, had what would be easily described as somewhat of a drought. But boy, it has come back with a vengeance. I took this picture of my weather station readout, and this was 12:49 p.m. today. 3 inches of rain last 24 hours, 5.6 inches this week, 11 inches this month, and 36 inches this year. So it's been damp. It really has, but it made me think about something. And that, in conjunction with another channel that I watch here on YouTube, it puts together some pieces of a puzzle that a lot of people didn't see a long time ago. I made the allegation that the situation in Venezuela was the greatest geopolitical miscalculation that the U.S. government has ever made in this hemisphere. I stand by that. In this hemisphere. Afghanistan, you could say maybe globally that's bigger, but this has been going on longer with Venezuela. This is something where the U.S. has attempted to overthrow and control this country going back decades and decades and decades. And a lot of people pushed back and said, oh, Venezuelans are a bunch of sad sacks and they can't feed their people and they're evil, terrible, horrible socialists, all this kind of stuff. Well, I have another piece of information to share with you guys today. And I think it's going to be something that if you look at it critically, you'll not be able to really debunk. It goes to another topic about why this would be a fool's errand. How we would get, if you thought Afghanistan was embarrassing, if we tried this in Venezuela, the U.S. did, D.C. did, it would be over easily in 6 months, and there would be thousands, if not tens of thousands, of U.S. prisoners being held for ransom. My guess would be enlisted would be going for $1 million a head. NCOs would be $5 million. Officers would probably be $10 million, and command officers would be $25 million per head. Because they understand capitalism, and they understand how it works. And they also understand there'd be nothing we could do about it but pay the ransom. I'm sure a lot of people out there are like, wait a minute, Florida Maquis, let me get Lee Greenwood or Toby Keith playing here. That's totally incorrect. We would kill, don't you know what we... Just let me speak my piece. Let me show you what the case would be. You see, here in Florida, when it rains like this, it becomes a muddy, mucky, nasty mess. Now, in Venezuela, it is orders of magnitude worse in these jungles. Footing is a blessing if you can find it. On the ground, it is nearly impossible when it's raining like this to operate or move. Why is that important? Would like to give a big shout out to a channel that's way, way, way bigger than mine. Doesn't really even need my shout out. Donut Operator is the name of the channel. He's on Twitch, streams gaming there. He's here, Instagram, Twitter, major presence in social media. Just yesterday, he put up a video that detailed something that would be critical to know if you were going to attempt to go into a jungle and attempt to engage in that type of warfare. What is that thing? Well, here's his channel. The video that you want to look for is Double Tap Destroys Knife Attack. And you'll see the graphic that says almost shanked. Has almost 1 million views in 22 hours. So it's getting quite a bit of traction. Some of you might have seen it. Basically, the idea, he has 2 different ideas that go on in this video. And he's a police officer, by the way. Big guy and little guy get into a measuring contest. Little guy pulls out a knife, ends big guy in a matter of seconds. Now, this isn't a giant surprise, but what this establishes is this idea that, because big guy has, how did Negan put it? Joined the club, so to speak, left the planet in literally less than 2 minutes after this. After this moment, in less than 2 minutes, this guy's gone. What that establishes is that with a knife, you can end somebody as fast as if you had a gun. Easily. That establishes this, and it's a great equalizer. This guy, the big guy here on the left, didn't maintain distance from this guy. Now some might say, okay, we get that. But in war, Maki, don't you know that everybody has rifles and guns? That's true. But later on in the video, he shows where a police officer, armed with a weapon in a holster, approaches a guy who's been accused of stabbing somebody and says, I need you to pull that knife out for me. Now, this police officer is way too close. Way, 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 way too close. And this guy gets this knife out and gets the jump on her. Now, she had backup, thank God, and backup ended the guy. But if backup hadn't been there, she had a gun on her hip, and she was 8 feet away from a guy with a knife in his pocket. The guy with the knife in his pocket got the jump on her, even though she was prepared. Even though in neither one of these situations there was any visual, physical impediment between them. Had that backup not been here, and I'm not going to play any of this video because I want you to go to Donut Operator and I want you to watch his video because he breaks it down really well. This police officer would have been done. Now, who remembers this image that I used? Talking about this psychological operations picture. See, the person who took this picture had the idea in their mind of making the audience believe that the woman with the gun behind her back had a nasty surprise for that evil, terrible man with the knife. When anybody who knows anything about knives or guns or how they work or how they operate would see something entirely different. See this guy this close? She's got it behind her back. Even with the safety off, even with the finger on the trigger, she stands no chance. She stands absolutely no chance. He is going to run right over there and knock that gun out of her hand, and she's going to be the source of unauthorized capitalism, read trafficking, for him for a good long time. That's how this is going to end 99 times out of 100. That's the reality of this picture, even though it's the exact opposite of what the photographer would have you believe. We covered this. In fact, Tim Bassett, channel that I've promoted a lot, got his head screwed on straight, understands this. You have to get distance for a handgun like this to be effective. And even this guy, who's a cop, confirms this in training. 21-foot rule. 21-foot rule. Now, I'm sure a lot of people, 10 minutes in, great story, Maki. What does it have to do with Venezuela? Who remembers the Angry Cops guy? Remember the guy that so many years ago put out this video where he was showing this thing where he's alleging Venezuelan military tried to scare U.S. Marines? And he's talking about these guys training on a bayonet course. And he says, newsflash, Venezuelan military members, you are never going to get that close. Really? Let's fast forward a couple of years. Is this close enough, Angry Cops? See, these guys were U.S. military. Is this close enough? Tried to get in there and tried to stir up and foment some revolution, and they got snatched right up. But I want you to pay attention to something. You see the black face coverings? We're going to cover that too in a little bit. See, there were U.S. Special Operations guys and U.S. fingerprints all over this. And it failed miserably. Why? The U.S. would stand no chance in a jungle war in Venezuela. It would make Vietnam look like a success. Why? Real simple. Let's take those rules about the use of weapons, that 21-foot rule, and now let's drop that into a jungle. Let's drop that into a jungle. Do you think you have 21 feet of visual around you at all times when you're operating in a jungle? You'll be lucky to have 6 to 8 feet. Now let's say that U.S. force goes down there, and they're going up against a large armed force of guys that know the lay of the land way better than they do. And let's say, for example, they didn't even have rifles or weapons or ammunition. All they had was knives. And all they had to do was hide and wait for U.S. soldiers to show up. They've only got to be 6 to 8 feet away. Even if those soldiers, U.S. soldiers, had handguns, which they wouldn't, they'd have rifles in their hands, which are way slower and way more cumbersome to use than a handgun. You could jump out of the jungle, hit him in the carotid with a knife, and disappear. And do that over and over and over and over and over again. There's also something else U.S. soldiers don't have. I want you to look at the footwear. See, this is something else Angry Cops missed. See, Donut Operator got it right. Angry Cops is an idiot. The absolute idiot. Has no idea what jungle warfare is like. See, these are muck boots. What do you think is going to happen when Sergeant Butterveins, Private Potato Cakes, and Captain Cookie Dough decide to go parachute down and splatter themselves into the jungles of Venezuela? Or amble off into that canopy? They're going to be a statistic. They won't stand a chance. And nobody's going to care down there about hurting their feelings or maintaining their caloric intake. I doubt any of these guys would be fed for 2 weeks. I'll be very honest. When they were captured, not if, when they were captured, they wouldn't feed them for 2 weeks. And those of you out there crying about air power and our technological advantage, an A-10 over a jungle is basically a giant leaf blower. That's all it's going to do. That's all it's going to do. Is hit a bunch of leaves, waste a bunch of aviation fuel, and hit nothing. And those of you thinking, well, we have things that are way more laser-guided munitions in a jungle. I want you to think about that critically. Laser-guided munitions in a jungle. What do you think you're going to hit? What do you think you're going to hit? And from now on, by the way, when I hear these stories about these drug, quote-unquote, traffickers and other thing traffickers, I'm just going to call them unauthorized capitalists. Because that's all it really is. They wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be selling this stuff. They wouldn't be producing this stuff if they didn't have a market for it. And the market for it is the American people, period. End of subject. So when I hear of anything being trafficked, and I do mean anything, it's just going from now on to be referred to as unauthorized capitalism. And this is what I'll leave with. This is an official, and I left the thing on it, lower left, Reuters photo from back in 2017, where they alleged during the Great Starvation of Venezuela that there were these looting going on everywhere. There was looting and people were desperate. And nobody looked at this picture critically. It was one of my favorite pictures. I want you to look very, very closely here on the right-hand side. You see food in boxes, undisturbed, even faced forward perfectly, still on the shelves. Here as well. This is a staged photo. You see food on the shelves, all over these shelves. All they've done is taken a bunch of stuff, throw it, generally speaking, on the ground. They've opened up a few bags and tossed it around. They've gone into a grocery store after hours and staged a looting event. Because there's still things on the shelves faced. There's still bags of unopened food everywhere. On the left, and it's the chip aisle, where if you thought if there were mass throngs of people storming through here, they would have ripped all that stuff off the shelves. You'd see empty shelves. You don't even see evidence of people walking through here. There wouldn't be stuff laid out in the middle like this. The throngs that came through, tramping through here, would have crushed everything. You don't see that. And once again, this is an official. Look in the lower left. Look in the lower left of the screen right now. Reuters photo. Staged nonsense and bull. If you would like the opposite of staged nonsense and bull, join us over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. Part 4 of Men's Survival, how to read women and make them reveal the truth without them knowing, of course. It's not a hard thing to do. I know a lot of guys out there think that that's impossible to divine the true intent because of some level of deception. All you have to do is first be honest with yourself. And once you do that, you can divine honesty from those around you. It's easy to do. It really is easy to do. Join us. Join us at Patreon. It's $1. It'll be the best $1 you spend. I get emails all the time from Patreon saying, you should really be charging $3. That's what they want the minimum to be. Not me. $1. Just enough of a speed bump so that we can speak openly and clearly and succinctly about what the real threats are. I'd like to say a big thank you to Donut Operator and also to Angry Cops too for revealing how much of an idiot he is in contrast to Donut Operator, an actual cop that would tell you that a gun isn't something to be worshipped. A gun is not the panacea for everything in the world. It's not going to make your life better. And in many situations that he demonstrates here, without backup, without proper training, it's just going to be an asset you're going to hand over to somebody, along with other things. And I'll leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you guys next time.